All right. Let me know when you guys are. You can drink when we're talking too. You don't. I'm not saying you can talk while you're drinking, but
Right.
you can drink while we're talking.
Oh, I see.
All right. Welcome to our Quincy Real Estate Happy Hour podcast. I'm Dustin Vance, Cathy Anderson, and Sandy Frillman. Today we're going to tackle some myths that may be out there that you may have heard or may believe yourself about the home buying and selling process. Collectively, we went through and we got about 32 myths that we hear a lot, see every day. These are kind of the most common ones, and we're going to try and highlight some of these and try to just give a little guidance on some of these. Cathy, what's one you want to go through?
I picked out number 13. If you see a home online, that means it's available. And I think it can be frustrating to buyers that different sites have different terminology, might be pending, might be contingent. And I tell buyers that they can always text me and ask me the status, because I can do a quick check on the MLS, or if I have to, text the agent and have a good idea if a house is actually available.
Yeah, we see that all the time. And the other thing that kind of goes along with this is I feel like potential buyers are confused when they go to realtor.com or Zillow or any of these other sites that say contact an agent. They're thinking they're contacting the listing agent, and they're not. So when they get to one of us, we got to try and tell them it's not, we got to kind of fill them in on the status of the home. Where if they're already working with an agent, they really don't have to go through that process. You can contact your agent that you're working with directly, and we'll be able to find out for you a lot quicker.
Right, and accurately.
Correct. Everything you want to add there, Sandy?
Well, many times the system doesn't go as quickly as the persons that are looking for houses. So many times it'll show as active and it has an offer on it. So don't get excited if you call and the person says, "Oh, I'm sorry, right now it's got an accepted offer." Happens all the time.
There's a bit of delay from our MLS feed to the national sites.
Correct.
And this is my sneaky theory, is I think on the really popular homes, Realtor, Zillow, they're slow to change those statuses. Because if you get a lot of traffic to it, right, you get to kind of say, look at all this traffic coming. And if you take a really great property at a really great price that has a lot of interest and you automatically turn it to pending, people stop going to
That's
the
true.
page.
That's a good point.
Now, I have no proof of this. This is just my little conspiracy theory.
I think it's wrong.
No, it could be. But I have seen that our MLS, the feed is not automatic. There is a delay. It could be 20 minutes, it could be 2 hours, but there is a delay in that too. Right. So checking with your local agent is really the best way to.
Right. So be calm. Your agent can help you and tell you where everything is, the status is.
Just to back up and just a basic explanation of the terminology too, because I think I have buyers that have contacted me and they don't know what contingent really means or pending.
Right.
And what it means is there's an accepted contract on the home. So,
correct.
Right.
I think we may have another video coming that kind of covers some of these terminologies too, but just to kind of recap that too, you'll see pending, under contract, contingent. All these basically mean there is an active present offer on that, depending on what stage it's in.
Right.
Most of them will still say continue to show, but you have to go showing with the knowledge that if you place an offer on this home, it's a backup offer.
That's probably another topic too.
And then maybe it may be a second backup offer. So
Absolutely.
And I like Sandy's. You gotta remain calm. You don't get real excited. I know it's a stressful and emotional process, but you just got to take your time and.
Especially right now with the market being so hot,
Yeah.
you just have to be patient.
Great. Sandy, do you have a one you want to tackle?
I sort of like this. Buying a condo is just like buying a house, which it is not. You buy a house, yes, you'll be guided sometimes by covenants. Maybe you can't have an outbuilding. You can't have a fence higher than a certain, height. But with a condo, you're under a different set of guides. Cathy, you live in a condo.
I do, and it is different.
And
yes.
you're on the board, so you can lend a lot to that.
Right. Well, I mean, typically with a condo, there's common ground. You don't actually own your yard. And there are different variations, different structures for condos, townhomes, cluster homes. The one I live in, is an association where we own more or less from the drywall in, and the condo association covers a lot of the maintenance, repairs, roofs, mowing the lawn, shoveling snow on the exterior. So,
And guidelines on, as an example, I have a friend that lives in a condo area, and she she flew her Canadian flag, and they told her to take it down because they thought it was a garden flag. Because they don't allow garden flags.
Right.
Garden flags, of course, are the real pretty, fancy, flowery things. They don't allow that. They will
luckily,
allow.
I can have those. Because, again, all associations are different. Some are stricter
Exactly.
than others. So,
Yeah. So you don't know, and you need to find that out too.
But you think it's a good idea to have those reviewed before you put an offer in? Or can that be something you can walk away on?
It's a necessity. There's no question.
And a good agent will provide a copy of the condo bylaws, restrictions prior to making an offer.
For both homes and condos because of the covenants for homes.
Sure.
It also outlines, even in a home with a subdivision, it depends on if they have any lagoons or common ground. You may have to be paying an HOA fee, a home association fee. So it's good to have those covenants to see what fees that you're going to be facing. Sometimes they can be more than what you think.
Right, yes.
I'm going to throw one out there.
Okay. I'll take a break.
That's good. That real estate agents get kickbacks from lenders, inspectors, and other vendors. That's why we recommend them, is because we're getting something on the back end. Is that true, Sandy?
Absolutely not. It is definitely against policy for us to be doing that. That is strictly for the benefit of the buyers and sellers. I will say there was a time, and this has been several years, where there was a kickback on warranties. But they soon found out that was not right, and they yanked that real quick.
Right.
So, no, we don't make a dime. We always have several vendors to choose from for our buyers and sellers so that they can decide on their own. We're not expertise in ourselves in those arenas, and so we do the best we can in finding these vendors. We go by usage, what we see when we've used them in the past.
And our experiences and our other agents' experiences with the different providers. Yep.
And with that, we recommend anywhere from 2 to 3.
That's our job, is to provide choices, data, and then let buyers make their own decisions.
Absolutely.
Buyers, sellers.
All right, Kathy, do you have another one you want to tackle?
Sure. Open houses are a waste of time.
Ooh, for who?
Right. Right. And I do have sellers that are afraid that it will just be nosy neighbors, which it can be a lot of nosy neighbors, but I always think that the more exposure you give a house, the better. If an agent is willing to do an open house, then I think that's, can be a positive marketing move. And the other thing I tell sellers is that sometimes I think there's a buyer and they're casual and maybe they don't have an agent, or they do have an agent but they don't want to bother their agent because they're not sure that house is the right fit for them, and they come by and maybe it's the one. That can happen. I've had that happen. So,
And best way to sell a house is to have people look at it. Your neighbors, they'll do your selling for you. They want to see who they want to place in their
But
neighborhood.
yeah, they get to kind of pick their neighbor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then that's not a bad thing to have nosy neighbors come
Yeah.
by.
Mhm.
Even
Absolutely.
because, even if they don't have interest in buying the home, once they see it, and they may have an interested party, a
Right.
family
Right.
member or a friend. And
They know people.
Sure.
And the first thing they'll say is when they come to the door is, "Oh, I'm just a neighbor."
Yeah.
And I go, "Come on,
Yeah.
take
and
a
yeah.
look and tell all your friends."
And I'm going to lift the hood, peek behind the curtain, however you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
For me, when I hold an open house, it's really twofold. It is absolutely to market that property, to get that property out there, to get some interest in it, get as many interested parties through that home in a short amount of time, right? But it's also the other side. I'm also looking for buyers. Maybe this home isn't the perfect home for you. Maybe, you're not working with anyone. Maybe you're just lounging around and you like this home, but it's not right. That's what I'm there for. So they serve two purposes. Waste of time. I don't believe so. I've sat through many open houses where nobody showed up. And I still don't find that a waste of time because it's still an opportunity.
All you can do is try.
Right.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And even if it was just the sellers pushing the open house, which is fine too, and nobody shows, it's still not a waste of time. It tells you a lot. It really does about that home, right? Because I don't care what day it is. I don't care what time it is. If the home is priced correctly, you'll get people in the door. They will want to see that home. And there's a lot of times, I know we've all experienced this, where we get a home on the market early in the week. We don't get a chance to hold an open house.
Right.
So
that even tells you again, when you're pricing things correctly, it's just another tool that we use.
That's true.
Yeah, for sure.
Sandy, do you have one you want to talk about?
Yes, I do. Multifamily versus homes. Many times people think that multifamilies are very costly. Obviously, it depends on the number of units, but there are also some reasonable multi-homes. And the benefit of that is, especially in the younger people, they want to build up their equity to move on to bigger homes. They can stay in one of the units of the complex and then rent out the other, and they can help pay the mortgage. So eventually you'll get to a point where you can afford to put money into your next house, and then you rent out the unit that you lived in. So it becomes, really a very affordable way to go. Obviously, it depends on the price.
Sure. And like you said, there's been plenty out there that are really reasonable. You can use FHA on them, up to like a fourplex, 4-unit. And as long as you refinance it, you can go do that again, right, with another FHA.
Absolutely.
And you refinance it, you take some cash out, now you have a down payment for your next one. You got this thing rented. Now you got some passive income coming in. 100% wish I would have known this when I was younger.
Right.
I really did.
Same.
And that's how you start building the portfolio.
And a lot of parents figured this out when they send their kids off to college. They'll do that. So while the child's going to college, and they rent the other side out, many times it's also another college student.
Yeah.
And then when it comes time after the 2 or 4 years, whatever it is, then they sell that unit, or maybe they even keep it if they're in that mindset to continue with investment property. But there's a lot of advantages to doing multi-units.
Absolutely. This is an easy one. It shouldn't take us long to get through this. You don't need a home inspection. Well, I can't ever remember recommending no home inspections.
I never.
I've had buyers decline them, and that's their own personal, preference for whatever reason. But I've never flat out told anybody they shouldn't have one. They're highly important. They're very useful. You learn so much about the home, whether it's stuff that you are going to ask for repairs for, or it's not. It's just things to know about that property.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
And then for a seller, it's great to get a pre-inspection before you list the property. At that point in time, you can then decide if you're going to fix some of those items before your buyers start coming and getting their own inspection. I do press it. It is a buyer choice for sure, but I just think it's so necessary.
Well, I thought this one was a short one.
No, right? I had more to add.
Okay, go ahead.
Go for it.
You got to add it. Go ahead.
I just think that the seller's market, that it's been that when you see as is, that my suggestion is still always have a home inspection. And then it means the seller's not willing to make any repairs, but typically if there's some material defects with a home, then the buyer would have the opportunity to void the contract. So,
Right.
Absolutely.
even if it's as is, I still always suggest a home inspection.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the seller goes ahead. Depends on
It's
what
not to
those
say that
items
they can't
are.
fix something.
Yeah.
All right. Now we are back to you.
Oh, okay. What did I have here? Getting pre-approved is done after finding the perfect home. And I think that's kind of a common misconception.
Oh, absolutely.
So definitely first step, I think, or maybe kind of intermingled, choosing your realtor and getting pre-approved. Probably, I suppose, getting pre-approved first, and then.
Yeah, what I like about getting your realtor first is them being able to help you find a lender that you work with constantly. There's been a few times we'll get buyers in with pre-qualifications, not pre-approvals, that we have to look down and look serious at those and, kind of figure out, is this a reputable lender? What's their time frame for getting you a pre-approval? Because a lot of the sellers today are not accepting pre-quals. They're just not taking pre-qualifications. They want pre-approved buyers. The difference is a pre-qualification is a small look. You say, I make this much money, I have this much debt. They may pull a soft credit inquiry, and then they say, okay, well, based upon that information, this is what you should be able to afford. Pre-approval, they go a bit deeper. They pull a hard credit usually. They have you send in bank statements. They have you send in pay stubs. And they look at what's your base pay, what's your overtime pay, what do your bonuses look like, and there's different ways to calculate all that into your debt to income. So there's no surprises once you get through the pre-approval. You know what the number is, and you know what you're allowed to go spend.
Right. They also look at things like child support.
Yep.
Which I think some people don't realize what all's entailed in that. For cash, it has to be a proof of funds. A lot of people don't realize that. They'll send you a sheet that shows a figure that's in your bank account without anything else identifying. That's not acceptable.
Right.
It has to have a bank letterhead, a valid signature of someone from that bank that's official. But that's real important too. So even without a loan, you still have to prove that you can buy that house.
Correct.
So
I guess I would say too, in this market, that waiting until you find the perfect home to get a pre-approval is a mistake, because you may lose that home, because time is of the essence. So you always want your pre-approval in hand when you go to look at homes.
They're not instant, so
And how many times have you heard, well, I haven't got one because I'm just now looking.
Yeah.
And that, boom, they find that house all of a sudden they didn't expect to. Now.
Right.
And I try to say, well, that's fine. We can still look. But when you find the house that you love and you can't get it, how disappointed are you going to be?
Right. And a pre-approval really is a matter of a day or two. And most local lenders have online applications you can start and then get contacted by a loan officer. So pretty painless.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
Well, you're up, Sandy.
Well, okay, so do you have to sell your house to buy another house?
Maybe.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, depending on your financial situation. But if you don't, you can get a bridge loan, and therefore taking money from your first house to put into your second house. Many times it's necessary because your house hasn't sold yet, and yet you found the house that you love. So it's definitely something you can do. Obviously, you have to be in the right financial situation and know that bridge loans usually have a higher interest rate than straight loans.
And they're short term. They're supposed to help cover you that gap between when you buy the new one and sell the old one.
Except in an investor situation,
right,
where you're leveraging the properties. But then investment rates are higher than your homeowner rates, your bridge loan rates, etc. So.
Sure. And there's also the other side of that too, is I have my home on the market. I've found a home, but I haven't sold mine. So I can put a contingent in there that mine has to sell before I can buy the next one. It's not ideal. In this market, they don't stick very well just because we are, in a low inventory.
And what's
market.
the name of that it's called?
It's a seller contingency.
72-hour.
Or a 72-hour contingency.
So if you see that or hear that term, that's what that is.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, the remodeling. Recouping your remodeling.
Yeah. Go ahead. You started
It
it.
was your turn.
You started it. Knock it out of here.
Okay, well, everyone thinks that dollar for dollar, anything you put into your house, either renovating or repairing or any of that, you're going to get 100% of what you put in out in when you go to list your house. Now, in today's market, there's a chance you could, because it is just so bizarre, but generally that doesn't happen.
Right.
There's a rule of thumb, but the bottom line to it is you just need to know that there's certain things you have to do to your home or you want to do to your home to live in it. So you get a certain amount of money from that, obviously, but you're not going to get the whole.
No, there's usually a percentage of the ROI based upon what the project
What's
is.
the ROI?
Or return on investment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's some resources, and real estate is local, so you can't necessarily 100% go by those, but there are some guides of how much, kind of an estimated percentage of what return you would get.
And then there's certain renovations that do give you more payback,
Yeah.
which are generally kitchens, bathrooms. Some others that you might think off the top of your head.
HVAC systems, roofs, front doors.
Yeah.
I
Those
think
are really big.
one of the biggest bang for your buck is maybe painting. Just some
Yeah,
fresh paint.
yeah, the biggest
Or maybe
one.
that's more
How about putting in a
maintenance
pool?
Probably not. It takes that right buyer to want something with that type of
I
responsibility.
think as many buyers don't want a pool as
Yeah.
do, so,
Right.
or more.
Right. So do you suggest filling in a pool if you're done with it, you don't want it anymore?
Oh, I don't.
I don't think I would ever suggest filling it in. It would more be about what's the condition of it and pricing the home with the condition of that pool.
Right.
Because if it's one that needs repairs or in disarray, needs a new liner, get some quotes, have that stuff available. And you really have to understand that you're basically selling a problem to the next buyer. And you have to take that into account. Now, what's the expense of ripping one out? Probably more than it is just to repair some of these things. So, yeah, I don't think I would do that.
Yeah. It became quite popular with water shortages.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered some myths. Hopefully we shed some truths on some things, make you feel a little more comfortable about the home buying and selling process. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to all of us. We're happy to help. We'll have our phone numbers and contact information down below. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, that was pretty dry.
Well,
This is what you get sometimes.